Well, welcome to this session. My name is Jason Alba, and I'd like to share a few thoughts with you on how you can improve what you're doing in your job search. Now, the whole series is based around America Hires, and I kind of believe that. I mean, supposedly there's a whole bunch of jobs out there. My question is, why aren't we getting them? Why aren't we hearing about them? I have heard that there's been an uptick in hiring, so that's exciting. But my question to you is, what are you doing? Are you doing your part? I know a lot of people are out there really hustling and they're really doing a lot in their job search, and other people really aren't doing much. They're doing a little bit, hoping that something falls in their lap. I want to talk about what we can do to be a little more proactive in our job search. So first, let's go over a few job seeker responsibilities. If you've been in the job search for more than 6 hours, you've read some articles or blog posts or books, or you've heard speakers talk about the things that you should do. So let's just kind of go over some of these. You should be there, right? You should go to the networking meetings. You should actually talk with people. You should look good and smell good. Everybody wants to make sure that you brush your hair and dress right, and you're not repelling people when you network with them. You should say all the right things. Your 30-second elevator pitch, your 5-second elevator pitch. Once again, you should network. You should follow up. Keith Ferrazzi says if you want to be better than 95% of your competition, all you have to do is simply follow up. You should interview well, and there's a whole bunch of resources to help you figure out how to do that. You should have an excellent resume. Maybe you should even pay for it. And once again, you should network. Folks, is this overwhelming or what? There's a lot of stuff that we have to do in the job search, or that successful job seekers should do. What I'd like to do is focus on networking. Now, I'll caveat this. When I first started my job search, I had no intention of networking. I was too good to network. My resume was too good to network. I thought I was going to be able to get away with doing all the things that they say not to do, like submit for job postings from job boards and stuff like that. I thought that my resume would speak for itself, and what I found about 6 weeks into my job search was that I wasn't getting very far at all. So I'm going to keep this presentation very focused on networking, and very specifically on the few bullets that you're going to see right here. So first is find relevant contacts. Now, I'm not talking about just finding any contacts and collecting all the business cards you can. I'm talking about finding contacts that are relevant to you and what you're looking for. The second thing is actually reaching out to them. Too many times I see people that are out, quote unquote, networking, and all they're doing is collecting information, but they never communicate with people. The third thing we're going to talk about is how to tap into their networks. One of the most important questions that you can ask in your job search is, who do you know? Who do you know that I should talk to? Who do you know that can help me? Who do you know that's in this industry? Or who do you know that works in the role that I want to work in? You need to tap into their networks. Finally, be in front of the right people. You want to make sure that your message and your brand is in front of the right people. And to talk about those 4 things, we're going to use LinkedIn. The next 4 things that we're going to talk about have to do with follow-up. Again, Keith Ferrazzi says if you want to be better than 95% of your competition, all you have to do is follow up. I already mentioned that once in the last few minutes, but that is such a profound statement. And every one of you, I know you're nodding your head saying, yep, that's right. All I need to do is follow up, and then nobody follows up, or we don't follow up consistently, which is the second point. Stay in touch with them. When we meet people, we talk with them, we send them a follow-up, and then 6 months later, we recognize that there hasn't been any communication back and forth. You need to stay in touch with these people and help them understand what your brand is. Number 3, stay organized. Number 4, know your history with these people. If somebody calls you up and says, hey, remember when we were talking about that thing? And you don't remember when you were talking about that thing. Or when somebody calls up and says, hey, you sent your resume in 4 months ago for this job, are you still interested? And you're thinking, okay, which resume did I send, and who? I don't even remember that. When we're networking as job seekers, we should be able to keep track of that. And the tool that we're going to use for that is my website. It's called jibberjobber.com. Jibberjobber is a tool that I developed to replace the job search spreadsheet. It is over 5 years old, has tens of thousands of people that have signed up and have gone through the process to do all these things within Jibberjobber. Okay, let's jump right in. We're going to go over to LinkedIn, and first we're going to focus on finding relevant context. So an assumption that I have is that when somebody is looking for you, they go into LinkedIn and they type in not your name, but something else. For example, in this example, I'm typing in project manager. Now, I don't know what your name is. I just know that I want a project manager in your area or with your expertise. And so my question to you is, are you putting your keywords, for example, project manager, in the right places on LinkedIn? So let's just jump down to the next page. When I hit search after the project manager, I'm going to see what the search results are. Look at it, all the search results on the very first page. These are the first ones, and you'll notice the red arrows are pointing to the phrase project manager. Now, what I've learned is that LinkedIn is showing search results based on primarily what's in your current or past titles. So that's one of the most important places to put your keywords. If you think a recruiter, hiring manager, venture capitalist, HR manager, any of those are looking for you based on keywords, make sure you have those keywords in the current and or past title on your LinkedIn profile. All right, so if you're looking for people, that's how you do it. That's how a lot of people do it, but I just wanted to point out that this is a great place to find. This is a great place for you to optimize your opportunities of being found based on where you put those search words. Okay, so let's say I click down on Hugo's profile and I want to find relevant contacts. Remember, that's the first thing we're doing, looking for relevant contacts. One of the things I can do is go find who Hugo recommends. These are people that he has had some kind of professional relationship with. If Hugo's a project manager and I'm a project manager, then these people have some interest in working with project managers. So these might be people that I'm interested in reaching out to. That's people that he recommends. Now, if you scroll down on the profile quite a bit more, you're going to see anybody that has recommended Hugo. So one thing that I like to do on LinkedIn is go find people who have similar backgrounds to me and then see who is recommending that person. So for example, if I want to be a controller, then I'll go look for other controllers from a certain company and go look at who has recommended that person. I might find the VP of finance. I might find people who have worked with the controller at the executive level, et cetera, et cetera. All right, let's jump over to the next concept, which is reaching out to them. One of the easiest ways to do this is to click on from their profile. There's a link that says get introduced through a connection. This is towards the top right of their profile. So when you click on get introduced through a connection, it brings up a list of names. You can choose the one that you think is the person who's most likely to send the introduction to them. Now here's the coolest thing. When you're sending an introduction, you get to message two people. First, you're messaging Hugo, who's a third-degree contact. You also get to message the person that's between you and Hugo. And here's why I love this. I want to reach Hugo. Going through Chris gives me a warm introduction, but the fact that I get to send a message to Chris gives me one more opportunity to be in front of Chris and remind Chris of what my brand is. I might not have communicated with Chris for the last 6 or 12 months, but here I have an opportunity to say, hey, Chris, how's it going? Here's what I'm up to. Please introduce me to Hugo. By the way, I thought you'd be interested in knowing da-da-da-da-da, and you can keep Chris updated on what you're doing. The third idea we talked about in LinkedIn was tap into other people's networks. So once again, from your first degree connections profile page, there's a link right in the main area. Before you scroll down, there's websites and recommendations, as you can see, and then here's connections. If you mouse over the number of connections and it becomes a hyperlink, that means that you have the ability to go in and look at the connections of your first degree connections or your first degree contact. So I'm going to click on this 500 plus connections link. It doesn't look like a link until you mouse over it. So mouse over it. If it's a link, then you're going to come to a page like this where you can actually browse through all of the connections of your first degree contact. These are people that you can look through and say, oh, I would love an introduction to this person. So you're not finding them through the search engine, you're just finding them because you have this mutual acquaintance. You would say, oh, I would love an introduction to Sharon Reed. Barbara, will you please write me an introduction to Sharon? All right, finally with LinkedIn, it says be in front of the right people. And what I want to do here, and let me just caveat this, there's a lot of different ways to find relevant contacts, to reach out to them, to tap into their networks, and to be in front of the right people. I'm just showing you one or two examples on each of these, just because we're fairly limited on time. So here on a group discussion, go into groups that are relevant to you. That would be a group that has to do with your state or city or where you want to find a job. It would be a group that that has people with your profession in it, or people that are in your industry in the group, or something like that. Once you find a relevant group, you can go in and start a discussion or comment on discussions. And basically what you're doing is you're getting your name and your brand in front of people that have a reason to be there. For example, if you're a project manager and you can find a project manager group, especially if you can find a project management group in your city, and start leaving conversations or discussions or comments on discussions that are relevant to other project managers, you can become branded as an expert or passionate in project management. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out and say, hey, this is Jason, I'm looking for a job, somebody help me, especially something as vague as that is not really going to get anywhere. But if you were to say, I'm a project manager and my emphasis is this, here's my specialty, I'm in transition, by the way, here's a link that I thought you guys would enjoy. So it's not just going out there and saying, help, 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 it's saying, hey, here's something that's interesting for the rest of you. If you do that on a regular basis, you will brand yourself as somebody who is knowledgeable in the project management space. All right, let's just review what we talked about. Find relevant contacts. We did that through searching and looking at recommendations. Reach out to them. We did that through introductions. Tap into their networks. We did that through browse connections. Be in front of the right people. We did that through group discussions. If you want more information on this or other things with LinkedIn, you go to my website, I'mOnLinkedInNowWhat.com. That's the title of my book, which you can find on Amazon, and you can find years of blog posts on using LinkedIn and a whole bunch of different things that we weren't able to talk about today. Let's jump over to the last four concepts in JibberJobber. So now we're in JibberJobber. You go to jibberjobber.com. It's not jibberjabber, it's jibberjobber.com. First thing we're going to talk about is follow-up. If you want to be better than what? 95% of your competition. In other words, if you want to be the top 5%, all you need to do is follow up. So within JibberJobber, this is the log entry page where we're leaving an action item. You can see up at the top, I wrote something on 10/18. It said we had lunch. I need to follow up about the resume. And then in the comments, I said that I need to call him on Friday morning to see if he did it. So down below, you can see that I created an action item to remind me. Now, the reminder is going to come to me on the home page of JibberJobber, but it's also, if I upgrade, you don't have to upgrade, but if you have an upgrade, you can get the action item sent to your email, which means you can pull it off of your smartphone, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people manage their to-dos through their emails, not necessarily through an external website. So this is how I follow up with people. I put those action items into the system. Once I log into JibberJobber, I see right on the front page, before I do anything else, I see the things that I need to do this week. All right, the next point is stay in touch with them. And this is one of those, oh, I forgot that I haven't talked to you for a year and a half. It's easy to let time go by, right? Especially if we have a lot of contacts. There's people that you probably haven't talked to for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and it's kind of weird to go out and say, hey, remember me? We used to be best friends, but I haven't. I let you drop off the face of the earth, so my apologies. In JibberJobber, there's a page called the list panel, which gives you the ability to see when the last time is that you talked with somebody or that you did something, sent an email or something like that. So you can see here in the middle column is the last action date. I can actually scroll through those and see, oh my gosh, I can't believe I haven't talked to this person for that long. I'm going to go in and either call them, email them, send them something in the mail, do something to communicate with them. And when I do that, I can go in and make a log entry, and it'll show up in the last action date. All right, let's go to the next one, which is stay organized. Also on the list panel view, I'm going to do a search for anybody who I've tagged as military. So let's say that I'm prospecting people who have been in or are in the military. And you know what? Let's make this search a little more specific. So I'm going to say tagged military in the state of Texas. So I obviously have a very clear reason for prospecting these people. Maybe I'm working at a company that's military friendly, or I want to work at a company that's military friendly or something like that in the state of Texas. So that's how I'm going to go in and find people in Jibber Jobber. You're tagging people, and some of the data that you're putting in about them, whether it's where they're located or something like that, you can filter down on the search results. So here are the search results. You can see the two arrows. The one on the left is pointing to anything that has military in the tag, and the one on the right is pointing to everyone that's in the state of Texas. Now, I did this search on military in Texas, and I came up with a handful of people who I can go out and prospect. So within Jibber Jobber, you're keeping track of your contacts based on various things like categories and tags, locations, how strong your relationship is with them. For example, I could have said, show me everybody that I have tagged as military in the state of Texas who has a 3-star as a rank. In other words, people that I have some kind of relationship with, but they're not a 4 or a 5-star. So that's how we're staying organized with our contacts. I'll tell you what, if you would have showed me something like this in the first week or two of my job search, I would have said, you know what, I don't need this because I'm going to have a job by the end of the month, and why do I need to keep track of all this information? But what I learned as a job seeker is, number one, the job search has a tendency to go on and on, especially if you're doing the wrong things. Number two, the more you network and the more you apply to jobs and the more you find target companies and stuff like that, the harder it is to keep track of all this stuff. I've seen people do it with Franklin planners. I've seen them do it with legal pads, with sticky notes, with Excel spreadsheets, and all of those work great for about 3 or 4 weeks. And then the deeper you get into your job search, the more you need something like this, a database system to help you keep track of it all. All right, let's go. Let's assume that Jeff calls and says, hey, Jason, remember when I talked to you about that thing 8 months ago? I don't remember, so what I'm going to do is go into Jibber Jobber, search for Jeff. I would obviously put in his last name or something like that, but here's the search results. I'm going to click on the right one, and then I can go right down to the log entries. This is kind of like what we did with the action items. You can see there's that log entry / action item that I put in about following up on him walking the resume to his boss. But this shows me what our communications have been, the details of what we talked about, so that I can actually go out and so I can come back and say, oh yeah, I remember we talked about that. Remember we talked about this a couple months earlier. It helps me look organized. It helps me feel confident when I'm talking to the person and make sure that I'm not dropping any balls. So let's just talk about review what we just did with Jibber Jobber. There's 4 things. Follow up with them. We did that with action items. Stay in touch with them. We did that on the view that showed the last action date. Stay organized with tags and other data about the person or the company. Know your history with them. We're doing that with log entries and being able to go back and review that. You can get a free account on www.jibberjobber.com. The way we designed this is that you can have a free account for life, and you can upgrade and downgrade as you need depending on your circumstance. So that is networking with LinkedIn, networking with Jibber Jobber for those 4 very specific things.